Hi, I'm Bryce.
And I'm Jimmy.
We are telecom and creative professionals. We're also fans of podcasting as our respective careers give us an abundance of windshield time.
While there is a podcast for just about any obscure topic you can think of, there was no regular podcast pertaining to Montana politics.
And that is why, with our combined powers, we are Montana Voices Podcast.
We strive to be an independent voice for all issues pertaining to Montanans and Montana politics.
We also strive to be very forthcoming with our personal biases as we attempt to see beyond them.
Montana Voices Podcast does not operate in a vacuum. We need your support, whether that be listening to our cast, providing us feedback, sending us conversation topics, sharing our content, or providing financial support.
We look forward to a long career in podcasting with your added assistance.
Well, let's just run right into it. Episode 23, we're getting up there again.
Indeed, we're climbing up there for sure. It's great to be doing so, though. I feel like we're really accomplishing something, even if nobody's out there listening. Hopefully not.
Well, once again, I have no stats on this. I can't tell you, whom is or isn't listening, and even if they're from Montana, if they are. So it's probably better that we don't know.
Complete echo chamber, just the way it's intended to be with any podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of podcasts, unlike other podcasts of inferior quality that we do not mention on this show, we're not taking any hiatus. Main competitors in this Montana Politics podcast realm is out for about a month or so.
Really? Why is that? Did they medical issues or?
I have no idea. Maybe it's a funding issue or who knows. That's their job. It's sort of part of their job as journalist reporters is doing that podcast.
I see.
So, but they're nonprofits, so their job is. Speaking of nonprofit, we'll get into that. We'll go through the list in order here. Let's not get too sidetracked. We already heard our business there, so let's go ahead and do our recaps here on episode 22, which was yet another zinger. We were keeping track of Bullock, or not keeping track of Bullock because he's mysteriously out of the state in Iowa. Weird spot for a Montanan. We talked about whitefish and how I dislike it. How there's no Momo is simply the new thing to make you afraid. Weed, crypto coal, we do have an update to that. And then sand for Lewis and Clark County, or lack thereof.
Indeed. I want to just reiterate that again. There's no Momo in the fact that it will not pop up on your child's YouTube playlist. So stop the hype. Stop being afraid of it. You are overreacting.
That doesn't stop. I think it was Lewistown. Did Great Falls have the police have an advisory about that, or?
Probably, but they do advisories about a lot of stuff like that. Remember, they put out an advisory not too long ago about some door-to-door salesman running a scam. Then it turned out that whoever that person was doing door-to-door sales had a legitimate license to be doing so.
You need a license to sell door-to-door?
Something of that sort, I believe. Jesus Christ, I really hope I'm accurate on that.
Recall that. They did warn about that, but
yeah,
it sounds like the guy was
and
legit.
It ended up being legit, but it was like it just came off as sketchy, and it's like, well, yeah, anybody doing door-to-door work in this year is going to be fucking weird. Especially, like, I don't know about your place, but at my house, I've got a no solicitor sign, like explicitly right at eye level, and you'd be amazed at how many people continue banging right next to that fucking sign.
There's a reason for that.
Exactly, and the whole time they're giving me their spiel, I'm just like, man, is this money going towards Hooked on Phonics? Better be.
Well, those no soliciting signs, of course, that is not really enforceable until you say it. For a time, I worked independent insurance sales, and part of it was door-to-door. Supposedly it wasn't. I was supposed to have inside leads, but I got sold a bad bill of goods. Unfortunately, the people I sold to did not, as it was a legitimate insurance company with just a crappy agency the way they did business. So if you died, they did pay out, as far as I know. Wasn't that bad, but door-to-door, and I was trained by the worst of salesmen, and they only took the worst car salesmen. Think of a tier below that, the people that I was selling with. Got to that eventually, but when we saw a no soliciting sign, that said to us that you have that sign up because you do not have the willpower to say no. So we saw that as money signs whenever we saw those. So the only people that are deterred by those, I think, are the Boy Scouts.
Wow, it sounds like a very fond memory of your past there. You're looking back on there. Let's not get too nostalgic, though, here, Jim.
I'm not going back into independent insurance sales, that's for sure. So not too nostalgic.
He's out of the game.
I got out of it and went back to school for a reason. I was like, this is shitty.
How long is the non-compete clause, though? Like, when can you get back with the band together?
I think it was a year, so I'm good at this point. But that was what I did before I went to school to get my degree to do something fruitful. I'm like, well, yeah, I'm making crap tons of money, but at what cost to myself, essentially.
Well, I'm sure you can sleep a little bit better at night.
Yeah, I sure can. And fewer people call and to tell me how much of a shyster I am. So that's my situation's improved dramatically.
That's a great descriptive word. Moving on. Geez, what else we got going on here? Crypto call. Speaking of sketchy business dealings.
Well, the Gazette put out an opinion. The Billings Gazette. We should stop citing them too, because their paywall and their industry's dying. So
some paper out of a town in Montana.
Yeah, some paper. But they put out an opinion that they're against this sort of fast track deal that's going through the legislature right now to have Northwestern Energy take basically controlling stake in Coalstrip. And they are against it, and they made several arguments against it, that it undermines the PSC, which it does, and it suggests that Northwestern Energy is passing on speculative, risks onto consumers, which it does. And we and you discussed this weeks ago. I think it was episode 20 or a few back when this was first coming out. So we're ahead of the Billings Gazette, but that's not very hard.
Yeah, as I recall in this one, Northwestern's, making the move to do it there. Public Service hasn't said anything on it yet. I have a feeling Kavula's going to have some fire to drop on him here about how this is, illegal, or he's going to put the brakes on it. Hard stop, no. He's gonna come out with the daddy voice, I think, here. He's going to drop a "because I said so." Now go to your room. And then after that, I think you're going to see NWE head on up to the room, tail between the legs, crack open the laptop, and break out them creds. And here's why Daddy Kavula sucks.
Dear Travis Kavula, call Travis Kavula, tell him to stop beating his wife. But one of those ads. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen, and it's not going to happen for a reason. And Travis Kavula did not run, and 2018 was his last year.
Oh, really?
In the Public Service Commission. Oh. Yeah, we missed out on that.
I totally
which is probably
missed
why
that.
He has moved to somewhere on the east. He works for a conservative think tank.
Oh, thinking away for them.
Thinking away, exactly. He's, I don't know, probably something in lobbying or something like that.
More
but
likely.
he was the sort of the sole voice, and of course he was the chairman of the board, or chairman.
Just like Vince.
Yeah, just like Vince, he was the chairman, and he was the biggest voice sort of calling out Northwestern Energy from time to time, which Northwestern Energy was not that thrilled about.
Well, now
obviously.
that this thorn has been removed from their side, is there going to be a new thorn, or is there going to be a Band-Aid put in place to heal wounds?
It doesn't sound like it. Travis Kavula, who is my age, I think he graduated high school 1 year before I did. We went to high school together, Great Falls High, the true high school in Great Falls. But yeah, he was a year ahead of me, and actually sort of de facto boss when I worked on the newspaper over there. But he looks like a 40-year-old man at this point. And he looked like that still in high school. He had the male pattern baldness going on. He had all of his books in a briefcase. It's like, you were going full Republican here, sir. He was. So he is out, and the people that are now in, I tried to track him down to see if anybody had any independent, stake in this, or if they had even a tweet or had spoken anything about Northwestern Energy. And it looks like Travis was sort of the youngster that did the technology and knew what a computer was, because as far as I can tell, none of the other commissioners even have a Twitter.
Geez. Well, it'll be interesting to see how this turns out then once we get somebody new in there.
Yeah, we'll see. Vote him in. Or try to. Still no comment about it, so apparently the Public Service Commission, for whatever reason, doesn't think they have a stake in this, which is unusual.
Strange. All right, well, anyways.
I'm not sure if they're representing us anymore.
Dark money groups, no doubt. Anyways, we'll see how that goes. Anyways, moving on, next topic here. New topics. We got Medicaid expansion coming up here. We're not going to talk about where we got this information, but it sounds like
well, they're no longer a podcast, possibly, so we can...
Who?
We can cite them. Who it's a free alternative.
Yeah, it's this place with information about the state, whatever. Anyways, Bullock's vision for Medicaid expansion, some say his presidential bid hinges on this.
And they're
I'm sorry, Jim, I got to bring up the question, though. If he's off in Iowa or Indiana, where the fuck he's at, who's running the state? Who's watching shit right now?
his lieutenant governor.
Who's that?
I don't even know, Bryce. I don't even know. Is that Jim Fox or something? No, he's the attorney general.
I'm pretty sure he's staunchly at odds with Bullock on a lot of shit too. But
it's Mike Cooney, a name I've literally never heard.
exactly. I wonder how Cooney feels a little bit bitter, left to run the entire state while Bullock's off trying to become a president. Here, you take my job, but none of the glory.
Yeah, if it works out for him, or Bullock, Cooney could have a shot at governor. I would assume that's the natural progression.
Wouldn't take him as VP. Like, I wasn't a good enough right hand man the first time around. What gives?
What gives indeed? No, the VP things. You got to pick, somebody. Pull a Sarah Palin again. Who's the modern version of that?
I don't know. She pretty much threw that entire campaign for him, though. So I don't know.
I do recall that was one of his biggest regrets is picking Sarah Palin as a runner mate. And
biggest regrets, and I believe basically any political strategist that ever looked at it said the same thing of like picking her was a nail, not necessarily like the final nail, but it was definitely a point of structural integrity within his coffin build for his presidential run.
It's unfortunate we'd have an entirely different country now. Or would we? Because as I recall, before Sarah Palin, I mean, we always had these crazy fringe right-wing people that nobody ever took seriously.
Bill Greitz.
I'm talking about the far right.
Bill Greitz. 92, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure it was 92.
I think so. So we had them out there, and we just sort of like laughed them off like they were. Who was the guy that ran against Clinton and Bush?
Nader?
The third-party candidate. Not Nader, the guy that actually did something. The little guy who was rich.
Oh, the little mousy fucking guy. I know what you mean. I don't know, he was like Jeff Sessions, but not as racist. I forget his name. Yeah, it's going to bug me now.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank too, but yeah, it was sort of like that. And then, these really far out people got legitimized, and we got a tea party out of it, where all the crazies sort of got together. And, then it just, grew from there, and now we're in the age of Trump. I think that's an extension of that. Trump owes his presidency to Sarah Palin, I think.
Yeah, I'd say so. She definitely brought out a wild way to do things. Ross Perot, that was it. That was the guy.
Ross Perot.
Businessman from Texas, and that's why everyone was probably down with it there, because he was, wow, he is still alive, Jim. He is 88 years old.
Whoa.
Jesus Christ, worth $4.1 billion. God dang.
Well, one could say he's a successful businessman, which, we don't know. We can't say for sure if our current president is a successful businessman. There's compelling evidence to say that he's not.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I don't see anything. Let's see. It says he's pro-choice, supports gay rights, stricter gun control, such as an assault rifle ban and increased... How is this guy from Texas? Jeez.
Well, he's sounding pretty libertarian for a second there. Then he started talking about guns.
I wonder how much, I'd like to see where the money's going. How much from his bank account is hitting old Beto's there?
It's a good point. There's a limit on that, but corporations, not a limit on that. So
of course not. They're not people. Or are they? Who knows?
The left has their own crazy factions or if you want to call them that, and I said we weren't going to bring her up on the cast, but we will talk about the Green New Deal, the GND, which is essentially no longer what I understand. And other than like pundit talking points, I do have to ask the question, does anybody know what's actually in the Green New Deal, which also wasn't a deal, it was a resolution to make future deals, essentially. And we'll talk about resolutions a little bit further up, because we've got one coming up towards the end of our cast here.
I thought it was just a list of ideas that would be kind of neat. And they acted like it was like, this is how... The way it was portrayed to me is like this was going to replace the Bill of Rights. And the more I'm looking into it, it doesn't seem that way. And of course it got shot down, but Ugh.
shot down. But what is? I had to actually go look at the text and do a lot more reading from people's website that aren't even from Montana, because I don't think Tester even had a statement on it because he, didn't feel the need to. Ambitious goals and philosophies, things we wanted to accomplish. Like, there was no enforcement of it, of course. There was no consequences for not meeting these goals. It was pretty much a resolution, which is a statement saying these are the things we want to aspire to. So there was, as far as I can tell, nothing in there about cows or not having air travel, which is one of the many things we heard. But I'm going to shake a finger at the media because nobody knows what's in it. And nobody, I think, understands that it's a resolution and not a real piece of legislation, I guess, when you put it that way. And that they were talking about tactical things. And, it works great when you don't want to talk about a subject. So the media effectively sunk it. And, I have no feelings on it one way or the other. It's just a resolution, nothing that does anything of any consequence. It's just another way that mainstream media is failing us, I feel. It fails us both directions.
It just
not
seems,
just to the left.
There were no penalties or anything, so it's kind of like the Paris Accord that they said we should back out of because there's no penalties. Okay, well, I guess we'll just keep doing things the way we're doing because it's working so well. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so
the climate currently has me a little bitter, given our extended winter period.
Yeah, there's got to be something we can do about that.
If it happens again consistently from here on, this is the first time it's happened, so I'm not going to squawk too much about it. But, if this stays consistent for 5-10 years, I can't help but say, geez, maybe there's a problem. Yeah, well, some say that scientists are in on it, but who knows? Let's move on. The whole thing puts a bitter taste in the soul
of
there.
Winter. We do talk about economic issues here, and another local business is biting the dust. And I'm not sure if you ever went to the Owl Cafe in Laurel, Montana.
I did not.
Well, then you're part of the problem for why they had to close, Bryce, because that was a staple of the community, and it's where all the old farmers went to get their coffee every morning and spend several hours. But, charging 50 cents for a cup of coffee apparently doesn't pay the bills.
I see. Well, that's such a niche crowd to begin with, that old coffee crowd. You don't see a lot of new people showing up to those events.
Yeah, that's the problem. And they were fractured, too. I think the old people were split between Hardee's and the Owl Cafe for their coffee. That's unfortunate, and it's sort of untimely. I mean, we talk about things falling apart here, small towns dying, but that's not the case of Laurel. It's West Billings, pretty much. They even got a Walmart. That's a growing community by all measures.
Yeah, they're not really growing as much as Billings is consuming them.
Yeah, it will soon be a suburb.
It's only a matter of time.
I couldn't find a mention of this anywhere, and Laurel is still reasonably small, even though they do have a Walmart, and they sort of are West Billings. I think the Walmart there is mostly for the smaller towns, such as Red Lodge or Joliet, and even smaller places for them to get their main shopping done. It's still pretty small, and one of their businesses is closing. I couldn't even find any mention of it other than a blurb on the Country 102.9 from Laurel. Sole operating country station, as far as I know there.
Well, they would probably be the ones to be top. They would know more about the subject than anyone else, I would imagine.
Well, they are local. Isn't that what country is all about?
That seems like their market. It's sad to see that place go. In addition to that, I don't know if we mentioned it, but Shopko is also closing here in Great Falls.
I think we discussed that last time as well.
Oh, did we? Okay.
Yeah, Kmart, Shopko, and you're just going to have a big empty strip of land there, I guess.
I don't know. I assume Amazon will buy it for a chain of warehouses for the area.
That's good. We can rename Great Falls to Amazon, Montana.
That's the hope.
Let's move on to there's some talk of mismanagement in family services. This one's coming out of Kalispell, and this is one of the topics I went way too far deep into for a previous cast and was misled by probably ill-doing people. If that was some episodes ago, but it did lead me down this rabbit hole. And I guess there's talk of this, or people have suggestions of this all around the state, not just within Kalispell. So the Daily Interlake is reporting this, and there's some interesting backlash coming through that, Because, of course, this is I don't want to dive into men's rights too much. We should never dive too far into men's rights.
I'm just cringing here. Continue.
They are all sorts of up in arms about this, and there are people that are saying, specifically men's rights groups, specifically on social media, I won't mention them by name, that are saying that this is not, just an isolated incident, because the Coalstrip article does point out specific cases. However, they're saying that this is basically a representation of things that are happening in the entire system, even nationally, not just in Montana. I don't have much experience with that system, and if I ever get somebody credible to come on a cast, perhaps learn a little bit from them on that.
I see. Yeah, I wonder who's someone should fix that at a national level, sounds like.
Well, we got top men up there right now, so lots of changes coming down, but...
I'm sure Gene Forte is right on it.
Our man on the inside. But, well, we'll do a toss-out to podcast, simply because I like Butte, because it's not Montana. It's, Butte, America, as you know. From the Montana Public Radio, there's a Butte podcast. They just call it Butte Podcast, a simple name there. And I do hope their taste in podcasts is better than their taste in coffee.
Yeah, are you not a fan of Butte coffee?
I don't know if there is any Butte coffee. If there is, I'd like to taste it. But I was talking about the Montana Public Radio, all beans considered.
Jesus. Yeah, it's not that
what
great.
What a letdown.
I got to say, I've since tried some other Montana coffee traders blends, and they have one, it's like Grizzly based, but a portion of the proceeds go to funding grizzly habitat or some shit like that. I don't know. It tastes pretty cool, and it's got a pretty cool looking grizzly on the front cover, so I figured that one is, I bought 2 bags of that, and I'm still working on it, so after that, though, I don't know. If I find something different, Montana-based coffee, I'll probably jump on that instead. But
I did a shout-out last time to Valor Coffee, and I also have the Montana Coffee.
Hey, bring some of that next time, will you?
Yeah, I'll stop by Lincoln and get some for you.
Perfect.
It's the only place you can get it, as far as I can tell. I haven't seen it anywhere else. Better than Montana Coffee Traders, I'm sorry to say, but they're more boutique and a little bit more expensive. So they are doing a podcast solely about Butte, which is a bold topic to pick up. Is there that much to talk about Butte? I mean, how much can you talk about the lead in the air?
I was going to say, are they going into the going-ons of the town folk there too?
It sounds like it's going to be historical.
Well, I mean, in that case, you have quite a lot to talk about then. In fact,
100 years.
I was at a relative's birthday party just this weekend, and we were talking about the Copper Kings.
Now, money was exchanged on the Senate, stairs right outside, and as we talked about that before, they didn't have cameras, so it didn't matter.
Indeed. Then on top of that, we also talked about the Butte Water Park, or water area, I guess, based off of the size. I've been told.
Oh, the pit?
No. It's funny you mention that, because the Daily Show at one point had a satirical piece about having a water park at Butte, and then within the last 2 years they went and made a water park in Butte, a legitimate one.
I have not seen the Butte Water Park.
I'm not sure where it is in relation to the Berkeley pit, but I really hope that it's above level of that.
Well, they're going to clean up that pit, and speaking of that, they are draining that swamp.
How exactly?
Oh, well, they're just going to pump it into Silverbow Creek.
Oh.
Well, they're refining it or something. They're doing something. But they are, by the end of this month, they will be pumping that water into Silverbow Creek. Clean water into Silverbow.
Okay, I was going to say, sounds like it's going to be somebody else's problem down the way a bit.
Well, they're treating it. Supposedly you can drink it as and nothing bad will happen to you. This is coming from KXLF.com. That's the news station over there, I guess. They say Montana Resources and Atlantic Richfield Company. It's the company that's going to be doing it, that's paid. So they are. That's exciting. The pit's going to get emptied.
Ooh, man. I wonder if they'll turn into a concert venue or something. Wouldn't that be great? They have the rocks and the gorge. They could have the pit. I mean, Butte needs more tourism.
Make the best
they
of it.
need something that can compete with the Kettle House Amphitheater there in Zootown. And the Expo Park. Laughable. But the Expo Park in Great Falls, and the Metra, or the Rim, I guess it's the Rim Rock now in Billings.
Denny Mendholt, Mega Arena or whatever they call it over there. So
Exactly.
big car guy.
So
So there's a water park in Butte. Maybe that's a good reason to check it out because I was looking at St. Patrick's Day coming up, and there's not much of a better place to be than Butte on St. Patty's Day. So I'm still trying to sell it to the wife, maybe as a mid-stop and camping over on the way to Billings.
Are you taking all the kids with you?
All the kids.
Jesus Christ, I wouldn't take them to Butte for St. Patty's Day.
Yeah, she's concerned about the lead in the air, but I think that's the least of our problems.
The lead in the
Patty's
air
days.
and then the lead in the water there. I mean, the kids aren't allowed to drink the beer. So,
Well, a different sort of contamination. I think the lead stays in, even if it's beer. You can't boil lead out, I don't think.
I mean, I don't hear any pros to your case.
It's a good point, other than, drinking in Butte, which does sound fun.
But you got the kids with you. That doesn't sound fun in the slightest.
You make a good point. It's just, how do you make the kids tolerable? Anyway, let's move on outside of Butte, going up north to Kalispell. We're going to talk about seatbelts, about a bill that's going through, and Mr. Frank Garner from Kalispell wants to make seatbelts a primary offense. And this issue comes up every couple years, or every legislature session somebody tries to push this through.
I see. I think it's worth doing, maybe.
Yeah, I'm going to...
Because, I mean, it's such a stupid thing that people should be doing anyways.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You should wear your seatbelt. Nobody's going to tell you that. I'm also going to tell you that you should not do meth. But I will say that it's not my right to force you at gunpoint to do it, because keep in mind, every law on the book is enforceable by death. You get pulled over for not having a seatbelt. You're like, I'm not going to go to court for that. That's dumb. And you get a bench warrant out because you don't go to court because you thought it was dumb. Eventually they're going to fine you. You're like, well, I'm not going to jail for this. This is dumb. It's enforceable by death. Do we need more of those laws? I think if you want to go through your windshield, that is your prerogative.
Okay.
Mine.
Let me add a not necessarily complex, but let me add in a unique sidestep here. Special circumstantial here. Your children.
Those are already covered.
Are they?
They are. There's already a law that your children have to be buckled, and that, I believe, is a primary offense.
At what point?
So if your kid is not in a car seat, they can pull you over for that. So that I will agree you on. What an adult chooses to suggest and put...
I don't think that you should be able to kill
risk
yourself and put yourself at risk when you have children there in the car. I don't know. That's just me. Whatever.
Well... Oh, you're saying it should be a primary offense if there's children in the car?
Yeah,
for the driver?
Absolutely. If there's children in the car, everyone should be. If there's children on the road, I feel personally that if there's children on the road, you should have your seatbelt on.
Well, I agree that you should have your seatbelt on. That's, not really the question. I guess where we're disagreeing is, do I have the right to tell you to do that? Which I don't think I do. And I don't think we need another law in the books. The thing about all these laws that, like I just pointed out, are enforceable by death, and ultimately it will come to that if you resist. Enforceable by death is that they're never unilaterally approached. Thinking back when I was a teenager, I had one car that would get pulled over on daily. Literally daily, I would get pulled over in this car for no other reason that I was a kid in a lowrider, apparently. And the things like as an adult was like there's a crack in my windshield and it's been there for a year and I've never cared about it. But these are the kind of things I remember when I looked like a punk kid that I always got harassed for by GFPD. So laws are not unilaterally approached, and I'm not saying cops are bad actors. I think we discussed that in Lives That Matter a while back. They're not, but people have biases that they don't even know.
Yeah, well...
So I'm getting into a more of a macro subject there.
Okay, apparently. Well, I respect that then. You make a good point.
Well, let's talk about Frank Garner from Kalispell. Maybe we can get some things we actually do agree on. We looked at him a bit deeper because, who is this guy? Seatbelts, and I thought that was kind of ridiculous. So I was like, well, let's see what other things he's doing. And apparently this is his only real thing regarding seatbelts and automobiles. It's not his pet cause or anything. He has quite a few 911 bills in the works, and something that I was surprised at, he's pushing through a bill that allows reservations to participate in 911 systems and planning, and I'm just sort of surprised that wasn't already the fact. That it never occurred to me that that wasn't the case.
Yeah, it's weird with 911 and that. I believe that BIA, and maybe not even BIA, but the tribal, like, even though they're within these counties, I think that the way it's set up is like they get a cut of the money for funding for 911, but then like they are still their own separate entity within that. It's the same way. It's like they would be, treated as if they were another county almost.
Well, that's interesting. So the way we have the 911 system is complex, and nobody can make any sense of it, which is why another bill that Mr. Frank Garner has through appears to be collecting taxes for a statewide 911 system, which is weird because, as far as I know, and I went to the SITSD site to see if they had any mention of statewide 911. That's the government agency that oversees the technological things for 911, and it's not even on their radar. There's not even a mention of it. They make mentions of working with the counties and such. I'm going to go no taxation without 911.
Well,
yeah, it collects fees for it, but there's no statewide 911 system.
Yeah, that's probably going to change soon.
Yeah, maybe
this is just,
another piece of legislation.
From what I understand, like, this is just 911 in general. Like, it's no place has got things done correctly in a row. Everyone's on the same page because there's not a set list of standardized, features that you can follow a lot of stuff. So, anyways, it is what it is.
I guess we'll see how his legislation goes, and if he makes new legislation for something more with the word statewide 911.
Is he doing only 911 stuff, or is he, because like the seatbelt one, I guess thrown in with that's kind of random, but
it did. And looked at some of the other bills, they're pretty non-consequential. Those are the ones that stood out, and he only has activity on like 10 or 15 bills, not very many, so not very active. He's being a good Republican. So the best government is less government, and that includes your legislatures.
Huh. Oh, good stuff. All right, so speaking of government treading upon people, it sounds like they're stepping in on the wireless carriers potentially.
They're trying to, and this is sort of what I alluded to earlier with the resolution, because this is a joint resolution, which is a basically a statement with no authority or consequence behind it. Looks like Dunn and Olson, two representatives, urging the federal government, the federal Senate and Congress, to make changes to the Telecommunications Act of 1996, because currently regulation falls under the FCC. Federal, and that's under the Telecommunications Act of 1996. But he wants that released so the states can make up their own choices on what they want done with cell towers or not. And it also further suggests that there's health consequences for RF exposure, which, as far as I know, has never been proven, even though it's been studied a lot. And one of the things they studied, I think, was brain cancer with cell phones, obviously right next to your head.
Yeah.
That the rates of brain cancer actually went down and have been decreasing since the early 90s, which is when cell phones really came on the scene.
Yeah, that's a lot of the more paranoid people, I guess, but I've heard that a lot. There's a lot of concern regarding 5G rollout for that. Because, they think they're going to use that to start pushing cancer into our brains
and mind control and stuff.
Start depopulation of the earth, but we're going to have such good speeds, though. Like, will we care?
Yeah, I hear you can get 10 gigabit over wireless with these guys. And
that's pretty insane.
And it operates on a lot higher frequency than your typical 4G, which I think is 800, 900 megahertz. We're going way up into the gigahertz. I think as far as 60 gigahertz, which is, very small wavelengths. But also, not everybody is an RF guy like I am, so I do have some stake in this. But it's a lot smaller wave, and there's less energy within those waves, and it's actually possibly a benefit to people that are concerned about their RF exposure, even though I think those concerns are completely not valid. Because as it is right now, you have a cell tower with high-powered, transmitters at the top, and those are pretty sparsely located, but it is high-powered transmitters up there. And with the 5G, it's smaller transmitters and smaller cells. You're going to see less of these huge cell phone towers I think they'll still be there for some time, but it'll be, small cells and sometimes cell sites you can't even see.
Wild.
Yeah, but I think the RF exposure comparatively could be negligible since it is much less power that they're putting on the airwaves, or it could even be less depending on where you're located.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, well, enough about nerd stuff. That probably went a bit deeper into that than most of our listeners care for, but we'll...
Let's see here. Well, it's about time we did a musical shout-outs here. Let's see, it looks like announced Winona and the Big Noise is going to be in Helena on the 20th, so if you're into that kind of thing, they'll be there.
What is that kind of thing?
I forget her last name all the time. She's got red hair. Winona
Judd? Oh, it's one of the Judds.
Yeah, that's the one, the Judd.
All right, a new album out, so coming to Helena. Hopefully in the future she can come to Butte and get into the pit.
Yeah, I think that's still a good idea. They should do the pit. We've got the Pub of Doom coming up here March 29th at the Back Alley Pub. That one should be pretty insane.
That sounds pretty metal.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be pretty insane. They're gonna have Cambrian and Explosion, Arc Heron, Thodol, Death Trophy, and Jolly Jane. All your favorites from back in the day. Your great hits. Doors are going to open at 8 on March 29th at the Back Alley Pub. It's $10.
Well, it's a downright reasonable price, and
indeed,
there is no limit to how many people you can put in the Back Alley Pub, in my experience.
I believe it is.
That fire marshal sign is a suggestion.
I was going to say, I believe it's posted somewhere. However, it's the sign is just small enough. It's just at that legal limit, and pretty certain it gets hidden a lot by flyers and the likes.
Flyers or people are in the way.
Yeah,
there's too many people in here. I couldn't see the sign.
Exactly. And I can tell you right now, like, nobody at the counting the door, no one's doing head counts.
Nope, and the fire marshal's not going to come out at midnight to see there's 100 people inside a area smaller than an average garage.
Did you count them all, sir? Prove it. All right, everyone, one by one, everyone come out here. 1, 2, 3.
Well, with that, I think we got episode 23 in the books, so we'll just run through our business here and then wrap it up.
Indeed. You're probably already here at the website, but if you're not, our website's going to be Montana Voices Podcast. If you'd like to reach out to us for any reason, comments, concerns, to be on the show even, our email address is going to be montanavoices@gmail.com. Hit us up on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is going to be @Montana_voices. You can hit us up on Facebook at Montana Voices Podcast. Twitch, I'll probably be doing something on that later this week. I don't know. We'll see how much shit I get done in my basement, but that is going to be twitch.tv/Montana Voices. And you can find every single one of our podcast episodes on YouTube by searching for Montana Voices Podcast.